Hey guys, I'm here with Victoria and INFJ. Victoria, would you like to introduce yourself? Victoria, I don't know what happened. Seems to not really sure what's going on. This is the thing about these live streams is sometimes they don't go as planned. Victoria, are you there? Okay, well, right off the bat. So hopefully Victoria is able to, let me see on the email and see if she's all right. Victoria. Let's see. I guess while we're waiting, how are you guys doing tonight? Don't you guys love the technical difficulties of doing a live? Oh, there you are, Victoria.
Okay,
Yay.
we're back, finally.
Okay,
wow.
good.
Okay. All right, so I'm a filmmaker in Southern California, just started my animation. And I love talking about issues in my work. I'm a writer. Trying to make a living. And so I just recently found out I was an INFJ, and that's kind of really changed how I see the world. Kind of makes you think that I don't need to change for somebody else, that I'm kind of good the way I am, you know, but there's a lot of pressure from the outside world to be a censor, an extrovert, which I am not. Me.
Well, I think finding out your result, whatever personality type you are, just people in general, I think it is pretty transformative once you really discover your type. Is your webcam working? Because it's not showing up, it's just showing your icon.
Yeah, I noticed that. Okay. You still there?
Yes.
How about now? Okay.
Okay.
There we go. Jesus.
Okay, good.
Okay. Sometimes the web.
This happens.
Sucks. So yeah.
Well, awesome. So how exactly did you find out you were an INFJ?
You know, somebody from a YouTube channel shared a video from Eric, and I watched it, and he was talking about INFJ, and it just kind of struck a chord, and MBTI, and I had heard of MBTI and the Myers-Briggs. I just never bothered with it. And so I'm like, huh, that's really interesting. So I took it in TJ. So then I looked up, I was like, okay, and I'm like, yeah, that is really not me. But I watched another couple videos on INFJ, and I'm like, that's a little, and then I took it again, and INTP. And it's not me either. So I'm like, this is, and then I took it a third time from a more reputable test, online free test, and that was INFP. And I guess that happens a lot, that you take these tests and it shows up many different ways, many different times.
Yeah, it's pretty common for people to mistype, especially on the tests. I mean, what I recommend for everybody, even if you feel like your test result was correct, is to really study cognitive functions.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
yes, and so I mean, because a lot of people, that are just like doing MBTI, they oftentimes are introduced to it either in the workplace or at school or something like that, and they just kind of, they'll get their result, and their friends just like, oh, take this test, and
Take the test. Yeah.
yeah, and people don't really think about it, and then but they'll have like, oh yeah, I tested as ISTP or whatever type you tested as, and then they just like go with whatever that says, but really, it's very easy to mistype. But yeah, so I mean, I've been there. I mistyped as an ENFJ for a very long time. So, which,
Yeah, I mean, I really looked at it. I don't particularly think it's important to be an INFJ. I don't relish the rare thing. It doesn't make any difference whatsoever. But what does make a difference is knowing who you are. And just, I'm like, I looked at INTP, I looked at INTJ, and I'm just like, that's not me. So there must be something off with this test. And so I really looked at INFJ, and I'm like, that fits much, much better.
yeah, and that's what, it's always weird. I mean, I've made videos about this, but like, to me, I just don't get why people, I mean, I guess I do because of the narrative for INFJ, but I really don't get it. Like, I mean, when I first got into MBTI, I didn't think shit about, I mean, I really didn't like think anything of INFJs. I was like, whatever, who cares?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And then you go online and start looking, oh, you're a rare unicorn. I'm like, that's great. That means crap. It doesn't help me out. Well, I have rare also, that,
yeah,
doesn't
exactly.
means nothing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what really does help is watching all of the videos from everybody online and their experiences. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's why I do things the way I do. Because it's really hard to understand this up here sometimes.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, well, I always ask this question just because I find it very interesting, but how were you as a child through adulthood? Like, take that journey of your basically your whole life, and how the different periods of your life, what were you like, and how do you think you've evolved, or how do you think you've stayed the same?
I pretty much stayed the same. I had an ability to read people from the moment I could talk. It manifested pretty quickly. And people used to comment that, wow, she knows so much. I'm like, okay, that's weird. And then I was very introverted as a child. And I wasn't emotive, and that bothered people sometimes. I didn't speak much. I just observed a lot. I had a very tumultuous childhood, and I know that there is a huge debate between nature and nurture. I think for me personally, I think it was both. I think that being a very difficult childhood, it just honed those skills and really made me focus on the NI and FE aspect and not much else, because my SE, I trip over everything because my SE is just terrible.
Sorry.
That's all right. Yeah, my phones are here ringing too. Gosh, I think now nothing's changed. It's just now I've accepted that this is where I am. And if I have these insights, that I need to listen to them, and it's okay to listen to them. I think for the longest time, I just dismissed everything because you're not supposed to do that. That's not how things work. And I think that's how you're told that, you know, and I wish I had known a lot sooner, you know, but
Yeah.
I had a situation last year where I was working with somebody and I just had not a good feeling about this person. And I just ignored it. I'm like, you have no proof. You can't, you know, you can't be making decisions. You can't do this. You can't do that. And then it just got worse and worse and worse until the point where I was feeling sick around this person.
Wow.
And then finally I just like, okay, I need to do something. So I do what I call poking a person. So I poke them with something to kind of get them to show their real colors. And I did. And sure enough, didn't take long. I'm like, why didn't I listen in the first place? And then I found out it was an INFJ, and I'm like, I should have freaking listened. But, you know, that's where you are in life, I guess.
I mean, you don't have to give too many details if you don't want to, but what exactly happened with that person? Like, what did you end up poking?
It was a business relationship. And when I walked into this business relationship, because I'm a filmmaker and, you know, I had partnerships and money and all sorts of things. And it felt wasn't right. And I could do better. That was the feeling I was getting, is that I could do better. But I'm like, you have no proof. Everything's perfect. It's perfect. You can do this, you know, no proof whatsoever. And then, I pushed this person to see if they would give anything back, because things were kind of one-sided. I wanted to push them to see if they were going to give anything back. And it was like, nope. So I'm like, all right, there we go. So I had to, you know, end that. A lot of time, if I had, you know, listened to my instincts in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, I can relate to that a lot. I've had many instances as well where I feel like, you know, everybody around me is saying, oh, this person's okay. And like, I just got like a gut reaction that like when I first met them, I'm like, like this one person, I'm not going to go into details just because of my sisters. I mean, just because out of respect of my sister, I don't think she really cares, but it's this one time in college, there was this guy, I don't even remember his name, but he was just like one of those guys that, or just people in general, that always has like a big smile on and is always like, you know, yeah, like, I mean, I'm not saying people that smile are, you know, are necessarily gonna be evil, but, or bad, or fake, but it just was it was like he always smiled. There was no other, and again, some people are naturally like that, but with him, I could tell that he was really forcing it. But other people just thought he was like the sweetest, nicest guy, and they would be like, oh, you're so cool, like, I love you, and like he was pretty popular and stuff. But the moment I met him, the moment I saw him, I was like, there's something off about him. He is faking who he truly is. And sure enough, years later, you know, he was always like, you know, this friendly guy. And I would even invite him to things, because I just invited everybody to things typically at my apartment. And he was kind of friends with my sister. And then he was dating a girl, and he liked my sister for a long time. And then he decided to meet up with my sister at some point while he was still dating this girl. And my sister was just like, oh, he's my friend, blah, blah, blah. And then they started talking, and I forget like all the details she told me, but basically he like tried to kiss her even though he was dating someone at the time. And my sister was like really turned off by that and was like, what are you doing? And then basically, because my sister rejected him, even though he had a girlfriend, he was going around telling people that my sister was a sociopath and like a cold-hearted bitch. Yeah, like the worst person ever. And like I just don't have any tolerance for those kind of people. And yeah, so my sister also got a feeling about him, not as quickly as me. I mean, I told her, basically off the bat what I felt about him, but she was still like, oh yeah, he's my friend, all this stuff. And then later on, yeah, that ended up happening. And I wasn't too surprised by it. But yeah, people do reveal their true colors, even if they may seem, yes.
Yep. Eventually, but sometimes it can be a problem.
That's something I've found with people, and I really experienced this in college, because before I was also very introverted and very observant, but not really interactive with people. And it wasn't until college that I really interacted with people. I realized how many people didn't realize certain things about people, and at that point I was like, I would try to help people kind of see through certain people, and then and it just doesn't work most of the time unless they're like a close friend. If you tell them, the truth about someone, or like you have a strong education about someone, doesn't matter. People typically don't listen, or they think you're just trying to stir up the pot. So.
Jealous or whatever. And yeah, it's so, yeah. I mean, my middle name is, how do you not see this? Yes. How do you not? You got to bite your tongue and just, they got to figure it out. And then you're just sitting there just like, yeah, I don't want to hang out with this person. Nope. Don't want to go there.
Yeah.
They do, and then they get burned, and then so frustrating sometimes.
It is frustrating. I mean, people, like my close friends know now, and especially my sister, because like there was a point in time that, I've said this before, there was a point in time that my sister thought I was psychic, because I would just literally, like you were saying, pull things out of thin air about people. And it was stuff that I saw, but wasn't really there. I mean, it might have been like micro expressions that they're making, or, body language, because I'm very into micro expressions and body language of people. But yeah, I don't know. But she was like, how did you piece all this together? So,
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you can go ahead. I was just gonna ask you to continue on what you were saying. I know I got a little excited from that.
Yeah. So. There have been rule though, when I feel there's danger, I will be very firm about something. And I've had to do that where I felt that somebody was a threat. And nope, we're going to do things this way. There is no discussion. We're going to do things this way. And I'm like, la, 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 la. Nope, we're going to do things this way with this person. And I mean, I had to do that with my husband one time. I hope he's not watching. A landlord situation with former landlord. I think she let somebody in the apartment complex that we were living in, that was a huge threat. And I think she got paid off to let this person in. Wow. And so I had to keep everything close to the vest with her, because I felt that, if I said anything to her, she would, I don't want to give up too much details there. I'm like, and he was like, how do you, this just, you know, how do you know this? I'm like, no, this is how we're doing it. And this is how this is going to go down and no discussion. And it actually turned out I was pretty right. But and I've had to do that a couple of times with people because of the way I was raised, I can sense a threat like a mile away when somebody has like really bad intentions. I can see it a mile away, and other people, sometimes it's hard for them to see that. And so, yeah.
Yeah. I think this is actually interesting, and I think this goes into even what you were just saying. Dexter Steele just said, do you guys think you have to strike a balance between, with listening to your gut and reaching out? What do you think?
All the time. It's a constant battle. Should I say something? Should I reach out? And not just, you know, for other people if they're a bad person or anything like that, but sometimes I can see somebody, they're so, and it's just like, do I say anything? Is it my right to say anything? Who am I? Am I right? I could be wrong. So it's a constant battle for me. And yeah, I mean, a person without seeming like I'm crazy. So most of the time I don't say anything and just kind of say, hey, if you ever need anything, just, you know, talk to me. I want my advice, you can have my advice. But I kind of let them come to me most of the time, unless it's so horrible. But God, it's a constant battle. I mean, at least in my head, I'm just constantly battling. Should I say something?
Yeah.
How do you say something?
And I think that's a good point. How do you say something, and should you say something? Because it really depends on the person and how close you are with that person. So like, I definitely think for like family members or close friends, I will definitely say something no matter what, even if it is a smaller chance of it being, or even like just not a really that big of a deal, but I will let them know just because I care about them. But as far as most people go, I agree with you in the sense of having people come to you. What I'll typically do if they're like a friend, but maybe not a super close friend, or someone, you know, that I care about, but I'm not super close to, or they're not close to me, is I tend to give out warnings, like vague warnings towards people. I'll be like, I kind of don't know about this, but, you know, I might be wrong. Like, I just kind of do stuff like that to people a lot of
Throw it out
times.
there a little bit. Yeah, I've done that. Oh my God, yeah, so many times. Well, what about this? What about that sort of thing?
Yeah. Or I'll just like make an analogy, or like, use basically, be talking about someone specifically, but not usually, not like say who they are, but to the extent if that person knows who I'm talking about, they'll understand, or at least I hope they will, without me saying, hey, no. But I do that all the time when I'm like out with my friends, especially my friends that are a little bit more oblivious to things. Like when I was in China, and my friend's not extremely oblivious. I did a study abroad in China, and my friend Patrick and I, one of my best guy friends, we ended up staying an extra week while everybody else went back to the US. And we stayed in Beijing with some of Patrick's friends from college's friend. And we went out to eat with some people that like we both knew that lived in Beijing. And it was like this group of people, and then there was random people as well. And I remember we were walking home from the restaurant, and there's this like kind of sketchy guy that was in the group, and he was saying, "Oh, hey guys, let's go to this person's house and like hang out and stuff." And I just could tell that there was something off about him. And I could tell like the people that were willing to go, it was a bit strange, and just like things I was listening to during dinner. My friend Patrick's an ENTJ, so he is very intuitive, but he just wasn't really aware of this as much. Anyways, I told Patrick, I like pulled him aside while we were walking, because Patrick was very naive in the sense that he had never, had done basically nothing. He was homeschooled almost his whole life, and wasn't involved in any kind of illegal activities or anything like that. And I wasn't either, even though I wasn't homeschooled. But I like told him, I was like, "Hey, Patrick, I think they're about to do drugs. Like not just marijuana or something like that. It was like going to be some hardcore drugs." And I was like, "I think they're about to do some like crazy stuff." And Patrick's like, "Oh no, they're not." And then Patrick's friend from college comes over, and she's like, "There's a funny thing about adults." And basically they were all going to go to this, I mean, not everybody, but like this group of people that we were going to go with were about to do like all these crazy drugs. And I knew Patrick would not want to do that, and I didn't want to do that. So I just like told Patrick, "Let's go." And yeah, so it was interesting. But
that's Jesus. That's always fun.
Yeah.
So for the listeners out, I wanted to ask people this. Have there been times where you get an insight and there's no way you could so little information brought to you, but you knew what was going to happen, and it was just, you knew and don't know how?
Exactly. Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know. I mean, it has to do with introverted intuition, and probably extroverted feeling as well, because we kind of can. It's like we can feel the people around us, and their energies, even when they're. It's a bit different because it's like, even if it's like a micro energy, or like they're trying to mask something, even if it seems like they're happy or sad or whatever it is, you can kind of tell underneath that in a way. So I wanted to ask you, how did you get into filmmaking, and when did you discover that you were creative?
I actually had been doing writing and stage stuff. I started doing stage stuff when I was in grade school. I mean, really young. Instead of going out with all my friends, and I'd write out a script and we'd do skits. I mean, really, really young. And I just loved it. That was, I'd write it and then direct it. And then when I reached adulthood, I was kind of told that you need Taylor, you need to. So I did. And I worked corporate for quite a while, and oh God, I hated it. It's, for someone like me, it was such a slog, and I didn't know why. Just didn't know why. I was exhausted all the time. And then I just decided to stop. And then I went back to school. I got a degree in theater. And then I went back to school and did a degree in film. And I've been doing film since. And I do, AV engineering and editing and all, just stuff to pay the rent too. But I have my big projects that I'm working on. And I intend to stay in that because it's very, very fulfilling for me, particularly the writing.
That's awesome.
I really I have a first draft of.
You have a first draft of what?
I just finished my first draft of a script, short, dealing with the state of our healthcare. Sorry. And then I have I like to talk about financial issues in my films. I know the one I showed you wasn't financial, but the other two I'm doing are very financial related and income inequality and stuff like that. So I have a feature-length film in the works and a short film in the works too.
I think that's so awesome. I mean, to me, I find that very inspiring. And actually people, I know you've sent me the links to your films and stuff, or like, I mean, that one, a snippet from that one film, but would you like to send me some more things that I can put in the description box or the comments so people can, yeah.
Sure. I can have other stuff. I love comedy too. I could say to my college one, the production value isn't that great, but it was a comedy, and I'm really proud of the comedy that I did for that one.
I bet it's really funny. Sometimes when the production value isn't great, it makes it even more funny.
Yeah. Well, when you have a budget of like $200, it's really hard to do anything. And I loved writing it, and my actors had a great time on set and very talented. But yeah, I'll send you those too. I tend to be a little bit snarky sometimes in my writing. My scripts are a little bit Coen Brothers, kind of dark comedy, something in the vein of Fargo.
Mm-hmm.
I've been told that. I didn't see it until somebody pointed it out, and I'm like, oh, if there's a Coen brother, or both Coen brothers who are INFJs. So I was wondering that, but I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Yeah, I definitely link all of those things because I want people to see it. I want to see the stuff. What advice would you give to people that want to get into writing or filmmaking?
Do it. If you're going to do it, you have to do it. You have to do a lot of it. And I think for us INFJs, we tend to take in criticism and rejection. But it's built in. That's the word I use. It's built into the program. You're going to get it, expect it. It's built in. Move on. And you have to keep going. If you're a writer, just write more, show people, get out. Don't be afraid to not show. I have met filmmakers. I met a filmmaker one time. He didn't rip, and I'm just like, what am I supposed to do with this? I have no idea. He wouldn't even give me a log line. I have no idea. Don't do that. You got to get out there and you have to shoot. You have to take a risk in showing people and talking to people about it. You can't be afraid of making a mistake. You can't be afraid of criticism. You're always going to get criticism. I think for me, the only criticism that I will take in is if somebody doesn't understand it. Because I tend to be very abstract, as a lot of INFJs are, which I've found out recently. And so, I mean, I made this decision long before I found out I was INFJ to that I have to make sure that people understand it. And so I hand somebody a script or they look at a film, do you understand what I'm trying to say? And if so, explain it to me so that I can get it. And if they don't, then I have to go back. I have to go back and simplify things a little bit more, or spell it out. That's a little bit more.
Yeah, I could see that being a tendency of being a little too abstract for people. That's interesting. I mean, it's like you want to be able, well, I think that's where you also have to strike the balance, but I bet you already know that, is because you don't want to like spell it out completely, because I feel like that's kind of, I don't like when things are spelled out completely for me. But
that's,
I mean, obviously
I don't either, but the problem was, I mean, what I found out with my student film is a lot of people were just like, yeah, I don't get it. I didn't get it. And other people are like, oh my God, that was brilliant. I'm like, what is it then? What is it? So you kind of need to go in the middle. So you have to say, well, what didn't you get? Just a little bit more so you can kind of broaden your audience a little bit, because you can't be so narrow with your writing and your audience. You need to be able to speak to a lot of people. So that's been a real challenge for me. And everything that I write, I have to strike that balance. And sometimes it feels full there and spelling it out a little bit. But, you know, for me, I'm like way over here in abstract land. So coming back to center, this feels, feels weird. But you're right. You know, a lot of films, they just, they hammer it over the head. But, yeah, that's way over on that side for me. There's no way I could get that far. No way.
Well, I guess it's good then to have like a bit of a balance, because I mean, it pushes you, because your natural tendency is to be so abstract, and then pushing yourself to be more grounded is good in some ways.
It was a real lesson for me, in it was Forbidden Fruit, the true story of the Garden of Eden. It was a criticism of the Garden of Eden story. I made a particular point, but a lot of people didn't get. And I'm like, well, that's not good, because, what good is it if I have a film that nobody understands? So, there's a lot of different types of people out there. A lot of the world.
Yeah. I think at a young age, like you were saying about yourself, that you were able to read people pretty easily. I think you kind of, like myself, knew of the differences of people. But it's interesting. Do you think now that you know about MBTI and typology, do you feel like you kind of understand people more? Or have you used?
I do. I'm like, wow, this is how some people see the world. And I can incorporate that into this, the sensors and the feelers, and I can start, really incorporating that more in how I make film. So that was really big for me. I can't stress that enough. That was huge.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of criticism. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. I'll say, I mean, it's not important. I want to hear what you have to say.
Okay. I know there's a lot of criticism of MBTI, and I've heard it, but I don't see it. I think it's a very good model. I hate the test. The test sucks, but the concepts are pretty sound.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a real eye-opener in that regard.
Yeah, I agree. I think MBTI gets a bad rep just because people that say that the people that say that don't understand the cognitive functions or haven't studied it. Not even understand it. It's more of they don't really, it's not even like, oh, they don't have the capability to understand it. It's just they just haven't. They just look at what the results are and they're like, oh, well, people mistype all the time, so obviously this is bullshit. That's true. The tests are bullshit for the most part.
Yeah.
Even the actual MBTI test, the distributed test that you pay for by professionals, that can even be inaccurate. It's just, yeah. But what I was thinking about when you were saying your stuff about film and understanding the MBTI types, I feel like you could it probably makes it easier too when you're writing the script. If you want to come up with a certain character, you can kind of pull from the MBTI types.
Yeah. I've started doing that. This last script that I wrote, I've kind of, I can't go into too much of that, but I've started to kind of put that in there a little bit, and that's been great.
Yeah, it's really cool. I feel like, I mean, if people did that more often, it would make the characters seem more realistic, because oftentimes I find, even though it's interesting to try to type characters, especially like fictional characters, it can oftentimes be hard because they kind of contradict, even though like anybody can be more than their type, obviously, but I've seen certain characters where it's like it's not extremely consistent with what their personality is.
Yeah, I never pay any attention. Well, this fictional character is this MBTI. Well, yeah, they're not really written that way, but I have noticed there's a couple people on Twitter that were talking about MBTI and adding that into, I can't remember who, but it's a couple people have been doing it. So that's really cool. So I wanted to see how that worked out.
Oh, that's interesting. Is it writers?
Writers, yeah. I can't, and again, I don't remember who or what or when, but I remember an actor that was trying to contact like an ENFJ or something like that to see, just talk to them because the character the actor was playing was an ENFJ. So they wanted to do research. Yeah.
That's really cool. That's such a good idea. Oh no.
To a character.
You kind of cut out, Victoria. Are you there? Oh no, Victoria. All right. Sorry guys for the technical difficulties again.
Okay. Are we back?
Yes, good.
Let me turn
on.
I
was like wondering if you were still on or not. I hate how
internet connection kind of.
Yeah, it sucks sometimes. I don't know if I told you this directly, but I actually want to start making short films on my channel.
Oh, you should definitely do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
yeah, and I need to I feel like it's just I would have to, I mean, I'm just gonna have to convince some of my friends to help me be characters and stuff, because I don't know anybody else that would be able to do it that's in the area. But yeah, if anybody's watching this and you want to come to South Carolina for whatever amount of time and shoot a video. But no. Yeah, I just don't even know where to start, besides like when it comes to how do you direct people or get people to even be a part of a project like that? Victoria? Victoria, where are you? Sad. Victoria?
Yeah. Okay, are we back?
What?
So yeah, get your friends involved. What you'll do is the first one will be difficult and it will suck, and but you make your mistakes and then you move on. There's 1,000 YouTube videos out there.
That's true.
A lot of people don't go to film school anymore. They just do. There's books. I don't, but a lot of the YouTube videos are really quite helpful in doing that. You'll make try to make 3, maybe 4 short films, and then each one will get easier, and then you'll start getting budgets and just go from there.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Just doing it. I think really anything. It's the same thing I say about YouTube. I mean, I've definitely felt more comfortable, and I'm able to churn videos out a lot easier than what I would have in the beginning, just because I've been doing it pretty consistently since January. So kind of going back to before, when you were in college, why did you decide to study theater at first?
Well, it goes back to when I was in school, where I just wanted to create, and I think I felt like theater gave me that outlet, but it didn't. It wasn't right for me. But film definitely was. Because I started doing the skits in a very early age in school. And so well, that's, theater's the natural progression of that. It's also kind of dying. I know there's a lot of theater fans out there, but it's a tough business, and it's kind of dying, and not a lot of money goes into it. You're broke all the time. And so, but with film and media, there's a lot more opportunities to do things, and that's why I went back to school and did film. Like I said, in many ways, I kind of regret going to school to do it, because it costs a lot of money. When it's actually something you could do on your own. A lot of people do, but it was still a really, really good experience for me. I love school. I love college.
Yeah, I'm actually starting to miss college myself, which I thought I would never say, but especially with some of my friends graduating right now, it's I kind of want to go back to school. I may eventually go back to school and get a graduate degree or something. I don't know. I probably should have gone to. Oh, what were you gonna say?
I really wanted to go to graduate school, but I mean, film school is we're talking $100,000 for that.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm going to go to graduate school. I'm going to get a master's in film and everything like that. Then I met the director for, oh gosh, what was it? It was a TV show where they, based on a Japanese show. I never watched it. Kids show. It was a kids show. But anyway, in the middle of he said, no, don't do it. Just go out and make film, because graduate school is really expensive. And in this particular field, just doing it would be great. Other people, other fields, you kind of need that grad do it. Not in this one. So that's what I did. It really resonated with me. I really thought about it and it resonated. I'm like, yeah. I mean, we're talking a lot of money and a lot of time, and it would probably be just a crutch. You know, making film.
Well, I could see film school being really good for people that really need that discipline or that drive, but then again, it's like if you should be doing it because you really enjoy it. So it goes back to you don't probably need the education.
Yeah. Power Rangers. That's it. Power Rangers.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. Power Rangers.
He lives nearby here in Southern California, and I interviewed for a job with him, and I spent a lot of time talking to him, and I didn't get the job, but I came out with that. So it was good.
That's really cool though. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's really neat that's the really neat thing about living in California is you have access to so many people around you. Yeah.
And I won't move because of it, but damn, it's expensive.
Yeah.
It's expensive.
Yeah, I always wanted to live in San Francisco or like the Bay Area in general. I don't know if I will ever. I mean, I got my taste of the West Coast living in Seattle, Washington, and that was, I definitely got the taste of the prices too.
Yeah, oh gosh. And it's gotten worse too.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, Seattle has changed so much in the last few years. So.
Yeah. It's gotten hip and trendy. Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's great. I love Seattle. It's one of my favorite cities, but, you know.
Seattle's a little too depressing for me. The weather is a little too depressing.
Yeah, that got to me too.
That's why I do like California. Apart from the earthquakes and the fires, obviously, that's so crazy about the fires. Were you affected by any of that?
I was
no.
Down really close. That fire was coming down the mountain. We were just like, huh. Yeah. And then the other fires, oh God. So I worked at Cal Lutheran for the longest time, and that borderline shooting, a lot of the students were there at that borderline shooting. I wanted to go to a memorial on the day after that shooting, and so I drive up there, and I drive into a freaking fire. I drove into that big fire, and oh God, that was a horrible couple days. It never made it to the memorials because I was stuck with all the fires. I couldn't get anywhere.
Wow. I cannot even imagine that. I can't even imagine that. Like, I saw this one video of this girl, this lady that was driving through, it must be online somewhere, but I think she went on the news for it too, but she like was driving through and there's fire everywhere and she had her phone on her steering wheel. So insane.
Yeah, that was a bit nuts. And traffic was stopped, and I'm on this road and I'm seeing the fire come closer, and it's high winds, and I'm stuck in traffic, and I have this Prius, and I couldn't, go off-roading with this Prius. And so I'm just like, okay, at what point do I abandon the vehicle and run? So, but I eventually, we inched a little bit closer to somewhere I could just turn around and get the hell out of there. And a lot of other people.
Wow.
God.
Wow. That's so crazy. Victoria. Sorry, guys, for the horrible internet connection. Hopefully Victoria comes back on in just a moment. But yeah, the fires in California, if anybody else was affected by that, I'm so sorry about that. That is insane. But yeah, I mean, California is a really great place. And I have thought about moving there several times, but it's so crazy with the amount of earthquakes and fires they have. But yeah, I don't. Yes, good. I was just commenting on the earthquakes and fires of California.
Yeah, I know. It is. The fires are kind of getting a little. Yeah, it's getting a little much. Earthquakes are something you handle you prepare for. Buildings are built great. But those fires, when that wind picks up, it's getting intense, and I will stay in California is a great place, and we have the best firefighters in the world, but you got to be prepared. Definitely.
Well, never boring, I guess.
No. But yeah.
But what were we talking about before the fires? I know we were talking about California, but well, you have, I think, the access to people and stuff. That is awesome.
There's a lot of access. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, there's a lot of access to people. There's a lot of things to do here. We like to do. California is definitely this sort of do state. There's activity all the time. People are doing something, always something going on, which can be a little tiring sometimes, actually. But, it's kind of great, actually. I really like that.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm probably just a noob, or like, I don't know. Someone said, Owen Wow said, what do you think about the legalization of ranch, and do you think it should be legalized? Is he talking about marijuana?
I think so.
I've never heard ranch as a term.
I've not heard that. Yeah, I've not heard that. Maybe you can clarify that?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what he means by that comment. But as far as like, if you are talking about marijuana, I mean, I personally never tried marijuana, and I don't think it's personally bad. But I think it could be very helpful for people. I think it should be treated.
Yeah, there's a lot of medicinal.
Yes. I think it's almost like, it's like not as bad as alcohol, because I think alcohol can be a lot worse. And it's not as bad as smoking cigarettes, but I see it as almost like a hybrid of the two, in the sense that like it's okay to, well, it's like alcohol in the sense that it could be recreational, and it's, it's something that like people can do, but you also can't show up to work high, or you shouldn't show up to work high, or show up, or like if you're
depends on your job.
What?
Depends on your job.
That's true, but if you're let's say your job is you're a teacher,
that'd be bad.
Yeah, if you're a teacher, or if you're like what's it called, a daycare person, that isn't something that's involving children. I don't agree in those situations, but I guess in California there may be daycares where they're like all for that. I don't know, but I guess I'm just joking.
I honestly, after it was legalized, I didn't see any difference. Yeah, pretty much life goes on and things are about the same. There's some shops that sell it, and you drive by them and it's like, okay. I didn't see it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's just, I mean, I don't see it as bad. It's just, I mean, I personally would never, well, maybe not never, but I personally haven't ever tried any type of cannabis. But it's definitely out there. And yeah, it was kind of the same way in Seattle, except for the only thing that was different was the fact that there was obviously a smell everywhere of marijuana. It was
Smell it, yeah.
Yeah.
But smell it before. So, you know, it's like, I don't see a difference.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah, I don't know. I it would be interesting. Joey just joined the chat. Joey, do you think that it would be different if it was legalized in Georgia or South Carolina or somewhere in the South? I feel like that would be, I mean, because we're so much more conservative here, I think it would be a big, I think there definitely would be more of a difference. Not even just by, not even the people that do it, but just the people that are so against it. I think they would be, you know, have their nose in the air about it, but I'm not sure. We'll see what Joey has to say. See if he's still watching. But yeah, besides that, well, I didn't even see if that actually was the question, if that really was. I was just assuming that's what they meant. I'm not even, I don't even see it. Oh. Ranch dressing. Okay, what? Yeah, of course ranch dressing is illegal. Yeah, I mean, ranch dressing should...
What? Ranch dressing, you know, like so many calories, that should be outlawed.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Joey said that he thinks it would be different. Yeah, I think the culture around in the South is a bit different.
Yeah, I would imagine that would be a lot different, but hasn't here.
Yeah.
I don't see high people walking around all the time, and I see people stressed out, but you know, maybe you should smoke some pot. No, just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, I guess the short answer to that is I think it should be legalized. Just because the issue is right now when you have things, well, especially marijuana, because I really don't think marijuana is bad. But unfortunately, in places where it's illegal, people sometimes lace marijuana with other substances.
Yeah.
And that can be very dangerous. That's where it becomes dangerous, is when you get maybe a bad thing of weed or something and it ends up being laced with something. I mean, I've actually heard of people dying because it was laced with something bad. So
everybody. And I mean, here I know the industry is like super regulated, and that your I's need to be dotted and your T's need to be crossed, and it's really intensely regulated. So there is that.
yeah. Yep. That's what I saw in Seattle, even though I never went into a dispensary. I wish I did, but I just didn't, even though they were all around. But yeah, it's weird that I haven't been to one. But I've heard I heard that they're very it's almost like going into a pharmacy or something. Anyways, getting off that topic, Have you always wanted to be a mother? Or when did you decide that you wanted to be a mother?
I always wanted to be a mother. I had my first child at 32, so I had plenty of time to kind of get to know myself. I have 2 kids, and they're amazing. They're amazing, but oh my God, they talk a lot. Like, honey, I'm exhausted. Dial it down. As a INFJ, I cannot handle people that talk a lot. It's exhausting. I can't. So I have to train them as like, okay, be more concise, you know? But man, very, very chatty. Don't know where they got it from.
If you were to guess what their types are, what types do you think they are? And what type is your husband?
I don't know. Oh, my daughter is INTP.
Okay.
And I don't know what my husband is, and I don't know what my son is. I've been meaning to get them to take a test. Son is he's gonna be way too young. But I definitely need to get my husband to take it, find out, because that would be very helpful. He's introverted, not as introverted as me though. So there's not. I just don't know that much about the system, be able to, look at somebody and tell them their type.
Yeah. Well, I also think it's harder to type people that you're close to, like really close to, like, yeah, I think it could be even harder to do that. And it's funny because I find INTPs to be very chatty as well. I mean, not always, not always, but when they're with the right people, they can be extremely chatty, chatty.
Yeah, that's her. She can be quiet sometimes, and then people are just like, "Oh, she's so quiet and shy." I'm like, "No, she's very, very chatty." She's the scientist archetype, and she's studying science. She wants to be a chemist.
Oh,
yeah,
that's so cute. So, well, how would you describe your parenting style?
I kind of let them be them. Let them, I'm very, very much about letting them discover them and finding out who they are and what they love to do. And well, my daughter was young. I thought for sure that she was going to go into some sort of communications field because she was so chatty. I thought for sure that it'd be writing or speaking or acting or something to do with communication. And I was so wrong. I mean, she's studying chemistry. It was like complete opposite. But, I mean, that's her. I didn't see it. But, she, and that was her thing. And, both of them, they go through these phases where they really get into something and then they move into something else and then they move into something else. And I'm playing catch up and, supporting them on that. And I think that's really healthy for them to really discover who they are. It really helps them. Helps me Christmas shopping too.
What do you mean by that with Christmas shopping?
Well, if they have, some people are really hard to shop for because they don't have any interests, but not these two. Man, they have a list. They have so many interests and things that they like. And it's like, okay, I just go out and get it.
That's awesome. I would like to think that I would be very similar as a mother. It's kind of something I've always wanted. I've always wanted to be a mother as well. But the thing is, I've talked about this before, but there's a debate with me. It's like, I'm not going to settle, for a guy that I feel like wouldn't be a great father or even just in general a great partner. But I'm also very ambitious too, so I also don't want to have kids necessarily right now. Yeah. My mom was also 32 when she had me, so I think, I don't know if I want to wait, you know, I mean, I guess it's all up to whether I get married or not. But yeah. What would your advice be to someone that, you know, someone like me that has never been married or I've never had children before. What would you say to someone like that? What are some things that you wish you knew when you were maybe my age that would have been helpful?
I kind of wish I knew how much time that I needed to recharge. I didn't quite get that when I was real young. And I didn't take the time to just go sit quietly or read a book like that. I didn't do that. And I would get stressed out, particularly if you have kids. They're going to demand your attention, regardless of their type. They're going to demand of you things, and they're going to cling to you and be very chatty and yeah, you got to find time for yourself. You have to do it, otherwise you can go batshit. Particularly as an INFJ, I wish I'd known that, to carve out more time in the day just to decompress.
That's actually really good advice. And I think that's even, I mean, it could be just that could be general advice to basically anybody, but I think particularly introverts and even INFJs specifically. How did you meet your husband?
He was my gymnastic coach. I took a gymnastic class, an adult gymnastic class, and he was my coach. So I was hot for teacher. I tell everybody I was hot for teacher.
That's so that funny.
Was our gymnastic. Yeah.
How did you guys get together and stuff? I mean, how did that all play? I'm interested in those stories, like to know how people get together.
I'm not the type that goes up and say, "Hey, you want to go out?" You know, I just don't do that. It took months. And I can't remember if he asked me to go somewhere or I asked him, but we just, after being in this to get some Chinese food, and then it just kind of went from there.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but it took quite a while. Like I said, I'm not the type where I speed date. I could never speed date. That's totally not me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I mean, for my situation, well, I'm not in the dating mindset, but before, when I was in the dating mindset and I was, going on dates with people, it got pretty ridiculous, and I just don't think this is for me. I mean, it got to a point where I was sometimes meeting up with it was at least, I would go on dates like once a day or even like a couple of times a day, and it just was like I could not do that. It was exhausting, different guys, and it wasn't like I would do anything with them besides like go eat dinner and stuff, but it was, or lunch or coffee or whatever, but it's like, no. I can't do that. It's hard though, because it's like you know, and where I live right now, I don't know anybody besides the people I work with. And there's nobody I work with that I'm interested in. And also, I don't think it's advisable to date someone you work with. But that's not even really an issue anyways. Yeah. But yeah, it's like, I just don't even know people. So I have to just get out there and meet people. It's hard though.
It really is. I just didn't instead of wanting. So I was like, yeah, I want to do gymnastics. I'm going to do gymnastics. And it just kind of happened. But I didn't date much. Honestly, didn't date much. I was too busy doing things.
I think that's a piece of advice in its own. Just do things. My mom always tells me, you know, when you're doing things that you're very interested in and, you know, you have your own life going on, that person will find you. Or you'll, you know, yeah. I just have to, I mean, personally, and I would say for other people that are maybe in the same situation, just do the stuff that I need to do. But yeah, it's just hard also because I feel like with me, it's like I'll get into a relationship with someone and I really have to just be friends with them for a while first because it just has not worked out where I've even been friends with someone for just like a short period of time and then dated them. It's like I have to be friends with them for a while. So if you what was that?
Oh no, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I think I forgot what I was going to say. So go ahead.
Well, I was going to say if you could go back in any point in your life and you had to change it, you had to do something different. You know, it wasn't a permanent thing. So it was just like you could just relive it for a moment in time and then it would just go back to your actual past and have your now future. Where would you go and what would you change?
I think I'd go back to college for a bit. That was fun. A really, really great time. And I didn't really appreciate it. Is that it was such a good time until afterwards. And I think I'd go back and appreciate it more. Totally would.
I think that I probably would have done the same. Just because I really was super fortunate in college because I got to travel, you know, to Europe and stuff for free every year. Not everybody gets to do stuff like that.
No.
My school paid for that. It's like we didn't pay anything and it's crazy. Besides like our college fees that everybody pays for. But yeah.
Yeah, that's what I did. And then I went back and I finished my degree at the college. I did a transfer or study abroad. I went back and finished my degree there, and they took all my credits. So I was there for a while, and like I said, it was amazing. And I just at the time didn't appreciate it, but I think if I went back, I would totally appreciate it and totally live in the moment.
Yeah. So anybody that's in college or university, even though you may think, oh, I hate this, I hate studying, I hate taking tests or whatever you have to do, you know, just try to be in the moment because these are some really good times. And then once you get out into the real world, this is when you have to things are not the same.
No, then you got, oh God, I gotta pay that bill. Damn it.
Yeah. Yep, my reality now. But it's good. I mean, I like, you know, kind of being a little bit more independent in the sense that I pay for basically everything on my own. I do live with my mom, so that makes it easier, but which is also different because like when I was in college, I did not live with my parents. So it's weird living with my parents again. Well, at least my mom. So,
yeah, there's definitely plus and minuses there.
Yeah.
You get a break on the financial strain, but then you're living with your parents and you kind of act differently around them.
Yeah. Also, like, well, I mean, I still pay like for a lot of stuff. So we haven't moved into our new house, but I'll be paying a significant amount of money, even though I am living with my mom. So I'll be paying for bills, and part of the like she'll give me a rent to pay. So it's not like I'm living here for free. I still have to pay for. It's basically like I'm living on my own, but just for cheaper. But yeah, it is hard because my mom, her personality is very different than mine in a sense that she really likes to micromanage people, and I don't do well with micromanagement. Like, and she just doesn't understand me, and she also doesn't understand this YouTube thing. She thinks it's a waste of time. so it's a bit hard in that respect, but yeah. But I've learned to not really listen to, I've learned to,
there we go.
It's just kind of like criticism with your film, like with film, in the sense that you're going to get good criticism and bad criticism, and then some criticism that would be helpful. I only listen really to the helpful stuff that she says, because I know that, a lot of her criticisms is just stuff she doesn't understand. So
yeah, well, that's a lot of people. Yeah, that's a tough one, and then you have to make them understand, and it's really, really hard. It's really hard.
Who would you say is your biggest inspiration?
In film?
I mean, just in general.
My biggest inspiration. It's funny. I tended to gravitate towards artists and celebrities that were INFJs. And I didn't know that they were INFJs. I tended to gravitate towards them. One of my favorite artists is Roger Waters of I didn't know. I didn't even know what an INFJ was. I just, ever since I was a child, I listened to the stuff that he wrote, not David Gilmour, but the stuff that he wrote. It was weird. Gosh, who else? Inspirations. There's a lot of people throughout history that overcome huge adversity. And I've always appreciated that. So many stories of that.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
No, it made sense to me.
Who else? Inspiration. There's so many people that have been handed things. The ones that like gosh, what's her name? Malala?
Mm-hmm.
The girl that was shot for going to school.
I was
And
just, I mean, I heard about it when it happens, but I was just thinking about that. Well, I just heard something today about her, which is interesting.
what's that?
Oh, no, I was actually watching a video, even though, I mean, I've known, obviously she's been an icon, and she's, only as a teenager, but it's weird that you say that because I just heard something today about her. And I don't I don't hear her name all the time, but it's weird that I heard something right before this interview of someone else talking about her.
She's really amazing because every time that she pops up or she's on an interview or a book, and I look at her and I'm just like, what the hell have I done today? That sort of thing. And she is just like, okay, I need to be more like Malala. That is so inspirational.
It makes you think how these people, I mean, it's like, how is she able to come up? I mean, how do you move on from something like that, and then do such great things in the world? It just shows you that your life, it may be hard. You may have a very hard life, but there's always worse. And I know that that's not really the best thing to say to people when they do have a hard life, but there's always worse and there's always better. But it's just like how you respond to it.
And maybe you could take that hardship and turn it into something good like she did. I mean, talk about turning that around. I mean, she could have wallowed in that, but instead she's out making a huge difference in the world. And just the fact that, she went to school knowing that she was a target at such a young age.
Yeah. This is very off topic, but I was seeing in the chat about ENFPs. I think they're just talking about ENFPs and Robin Williams, and I do believe that Robin Williams was an ENFP. And ENFPs are actually some of the most, I've noticed they can be some of the most introverted extroverts in many respects, even though, they have this tendency of being they can be extremely extroverted in a lot of ways and seem very goofy and stuff, but they have a very introverted nature at times that some of the extroverts don't really exhibit. Yeah.
I could see that he would be an introvert, an extroverted introvert. He would turn it on and then turn it off. And it was like later in life, he had a hard time turning it on. And then he was going into himself more.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a feeling I got from him, that he was having a hard time putting that out there. And then he just started to withdraw.
I think that's the nature of depression when it is specifically with ENFPs. I was talking to Mark about this, who ENFP Perspectives on YouTube, and he was talking about how he feels most alive when he has this, he is exhibiting his extroverted self and being very in tune with people and stuff. And I think that's the same for Robin Williams. Obviously, he loved performing. He loved all of that. But at the same time, when you're a celebrity or even in the spotlight, you have all this negative energy. There's so many people that are coming after you and they're using up your energy, basically soul sucking. And also, you probably see that a lot in LA or in California in general. But also, I think with him, it really was a chemical imbalance. He had depression, and how it shows, and I think ENFPs is they do become very withdrawn. And I think it's good for ENFPs to be introverted at times because they need to use their extroverted intuition and introverted feeling. But at the same time, when an ENFP slips into that too much, it can be very destructive, because they don't find that meaning anymore that they used to. And it's like you see with Robin Williams, he seemed like he had it all, and he really did, but just shows you with depression. I mean, I've been there where the world feels numb and nothing has meaning, and you can have everything in the world, but if you are there, if you have that mental state, it's useless, really.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I've definitely been there too. And kind of situation where nothing felt right. It was really weird. And then there was this like sort of higher self that was looking in. It's like, well, they're offering things to you. They're offering their time, their energy. They're offering it to you, but to me rather. And it just doesn't feel right. I didn't feel like taking it. It was really weird. I don't know how to explain that. But I just remember sort of the weird sort of looking from above. What am I doing? Yeah, it can be so overpowering rather.
Yeah, that's crazy in itself. I mean, what did you do at those times to get out of depression?
I embrace it. I know that sounds weird. But it's like, okay, we need to focus on this. So I just I'll play the same album over and over again. I'll just sit in my room and just zone out. Just do whatever comes instead of fighting it. And I found what happens for me is that it just like, okay, all right, now I'm done. And then just get up and go again, because it just sort of works its way through. Anyway, that's just what I did. I don't recommend that for everybody else. You just sit there in your room forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it also depends on the degree.
Yeah. There's that. Sometimes it takes a while too.
Yeah.
And but that was kind of weird, having that just sort of out of body sort of looking in. It's like, they're doing this, they're doing really nice things for you. They're being, but it just doesn't feel like they are. So that's, anyway.
Yeah. It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to say what's helpful sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's going to be different. I think exercise helps to a certain degree for a limited time, and then you're back to where you started, because I don't think that's a long-term solution, if you will.
Yeah.
Meditation really helps.
I would say meditation could be, I mean, for many people, if not everybody. I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but I think meditation could be is definitely more of a long-term solution.
Yeah.
Even doing gratitude exercises can be also very helpful. I saw. Okay, Faye, the ENFJ. By the way, I have read your email, and I'm going to send you an email after this. She wants to do an interview, and I really would love to as well. But yeah. Yeah, we've talked about a lot so far. Do you have anything that you have been thinking about, or anything that you want to share or talk about in general?
Gosh, yeah, we covered a lot, huh? I think that for me, there's always been a duality to me. And I don't know about anybody else. I can't speak for anybody else, but there's it's really hard to explain. It's like my NI is in sometimes. And it will make my life miserable if I don't do what it says. Like the case I talked about with, you know, the business situation where I was starting to feel sick. I wasn't listening to whatever that is. Yeah, I call it NI. It could be something else, but wasn't listening. So I was getting sick. I mean, physically sick until I listened.
Wow.
And I don't know, has anybody else experienced that? Because it's kind of weird.
No, I feel like I have at leveling degrees. I think with me, it's like, I think some of the worst moments of my life did grow out of not trusting myself, or not going with what I wanted to do, or like my gut reaction for things, and then having that, you know, kind of be at a certain level at a certain time. So like, let's say I had an insight about something and I really felt like this is what I need to do, or like this is not right, or something like that. If I just stayed at that neutral level where I didn't do anything, it would push me to certain extents. I see that with certain things that have manifested, especially like worries and fears. If I get too much in my head about certain things, they'll loop. And I've talked about this a good amount of times on my channel, but last March I got shingles, and I got it on my face. I have photos, and it's very gross, but it was on my face. It was like this, like where my hand is. I even got it on my cornea, so I almost went blind. But a lot of that stuff happened. Yes, I did have chickenpox when I was 10 months old, so it was in my nerve. It was in my nervous system, or in my nerves, came out. But it all came out because of stress. And it was one of the worst moments of my life. It was so painful. It felt like I was getting electrocuted constantly on my head. And to this day, so like right here, I can't completely feel my face.
Ow.
So that's a very physical representation of stress, and also not trusting your intuition, and just having, or like trusting your intuition to an extent, like having this pestering thought of like, hey, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do, or, you know, or you keep on looping something and then just not doing it until it gets so bad that you're faced with the physical representation.
And it becomes physical. Yeah. Yeah, I've been there many times. And it's absolutely bizarre. It's like, sometimes I don't feel like I'm in charge, because if I don't listen to that, then my life becomes miserable. And when I'm in a situation or a room where there's some issues with people, and it's just so overwhelming that I could barely speak. It's like, it'd be nice to be able to turn that off because, hey, I just kind of need to get through this and, so I can get to where I need to go and do what I need to do. But nope. It's like, you're going to feel this. And you're going to do what I want you to do. And that other person is still me. That makes sense.
Yeah. No, I get that. I get that. I mean, I feel that often. And I think any INFJ has experienced that at some point. And I always feel like, I don't know about you and I don't know about other INFJs, but I would assume that, people are like this, or at least INFJs. I might be wrong. But I find I can be very extreme about things too. I have like some tastes that are mild, but in general, I can be very extreme about different things. I don't know how to describe it, but there's like different sides of me that could be very extreme as far as like what I want and things like that. Someone asked, well, who asked that? I don't know, but I saw someone ask about shingles, what causes shingles, and there's a few things. I'm not an expert. My dad was actually, so my dad's emergency medicine, and I thought I had an allergic reaction because it like started off as like these tiny little bumps on my forehead. And so I sent him a photo, and he said because it doesn't cross the midline of the face, that that he thought it was shingles, and I needed to go to the go to an urgent care. What causes shingles? So you have to have chickenpox, or it's the chickenpox virus sits in your nerves. So if you've had chickenpox, so for me, I just had the perfect storm of combinations of things. I was 10 months old when I got chickenpox. And if you're 18 months old or younger, you're more likely to get shingles in the future.
Oh.
There's a few different things. And also the extreme stress. Extreme stress can cause it. It can just come up. And it can pop up at any time. And a lot of people, I had no idea that someone my age could get shingles because I was 24 when I got shingles. And after that experience, I found out there was a lot of people that I knew that have had experiences with shingles at a young age, like 12, 13, in their 20s, 30s. But a lot of people think it's a middle-aged or older person thing. And actually, in the US, insurance doesn't cover the shingles vaccine for people that are under, I'm just gonna say it might actually be older than this, but like let's say the age is 55. If you're younger than that age, then it's what?
I think it's 55.
Yeah, if you're younger than that age, then insurance won't cover it. But most people don't even think they'll get shingles. But also autoimmune disorders and just poor health in general. So that's why a lot of older people get it, because their immune systems aren't as strong. But for me, it was, I don't have anything. I was a bit paranoid when I got shingles. I was like, what caused this? But it was just stress. I went to the doctor, nothing was wrong with me. It was all just stress.
I can really wear you down.
Yeah. But also, I think it might have been a combination. Well, the stress came about also from being basically on my own in Seattle. And I had not the best roommate. I had two different roommates, and one of them was not the best and didn't make things easy. And also I was, struggling to make ends meet at the time. So.
So that is a lot of stress.
Yeah. So again, I'm not an expert, but so I would have to talk to a physician. The only thing I would say is you don't want to get shingles on your face. There's definitely different levels of shingles you want to get on your body. You don't want to get on your face, even though you can't control that. Because again, I almost went blind from it being on my cornea, and also from my eye pressure being twice as high in this eye than in this eye.
Ow, damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually talking about going to get it, even though insurance won't cover it for me. I was thinking about going to get it because it's actually not that expensive.
Really?
I think
How
it was
much
like
is it?
$75. So I was thinking about just going to get it.
If you've had chickenpox, which the chickenpox vaccine didn't come out in the US until I think 1995. It was out before that in I think Japan, but yeah, so I mean, most people that are watching this either had chickenpox or,
the vaccination. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea.
I had chickenpox in my 20s. So,
wow.
But yeah, it was bad. It was miserable. But I'm really paranoid about shingles, and I was thinking of last year. I was thinking about, you know what? I should go get that. I should go get, even though insurance won't pay for it, I should just go get it. That vaccination for shingles. Yeah.
No, I mean, I personally would recommend it for anybody, but yeah. But yeah. I don't think people want to hear this anymore because I could just sorry, I told you guys again about that story. It's definitely a cautionary tale, and I think more people should know about it because I did not know about shingles before that. Yeah. That's the nice thing of. Oh, what were you saying?
I was like, it's a good reminder. I was like, I forgot to go do it, and I was like, you know what? This is a good reminder. I'm gonna go do it. I'm gonna go get that vaccine.
I've actually thought about making a video on the subject and actually showing photos of myself, because the photos are just it's just completely different than what it's like it completely transformed my face.
Yeah.
It like almost unrecognizable.
Shingles is far worse than chickenpox for sure. It's really nasty, and it could lay you up for weeks.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I was on a ton of medicine and I couldn't work for 10 days. So, that makes it worse because it's like I already kind of was out of financial strain and then couldn't work. I couldn't work. Yeah. So, but yeah. What would you say was your hardest moment in your life so far, and how did you get over it?
I don't know that I had one single moment, but certainly had a lot of family issues. Oh yeah, my son was he was in the NICU for the first 3 months of his life, because it's very, very complicated. He had some airway issues. The hospital wasn't doing a particularly good job. In fact, they did a terrible job and really kind of messed him up. And they did a surgery on him that they botched, and his lung collapsed. He was like 2 months old. And it was just kind of in that moment, that night, it was like, okay, I've had enough of your crap, and just really kind of struggled to get him healthy. But I did it. We did it.
Oh.
That was yeah, that took years. A lot of surgeries and quite a few years. But he's healthy now.
Wow. I mean, that's awesome that he's healthy now, but I can't even imagine what it was like for you as a mother to see your child, you know, and you really can't do anything about it. I mean, besides, you know, help him in that way, but it's like they're so innocent and defenseless. Yeah.
That was it was a really, really interesting time because I was definitely not the best person I could be at that time. And those 3 months were so formative for me because I had to be somebody else. I had to step up. I really had to fight for him. And talk about INFJ rage. They remember me. They definitely remember me. And it wasn't rage. It was very cold. It was like, I don't even know how to explain it, but there was just this sort of cold drive to get them to do what I wanted them to do and fucking fix it. And I didn't really care how they did it, what they did, or what I did, but you know, I didn't really give a crap about them. And like I said, they remember me.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the unfortunate thing sometimes. I mean, well, really anywhere, but it's like sometimes doctors or, you know, professionals in general, even though they are professionals, they don't know what they're doing. Yeah, I mean, they know what they're doing, but they don't always know what's right or what's best.
Well, they
Most
didn't.
of the time they do, but yeah, there's instances.
Yeah.
Wow.
When you're fighting an institution with huge pockets, you know, they think they know everything and they think they know they're right, but they definitely did not. And I actually didn't know how bad it was until he was out and I got him to doctors that really did know what they were doing. And I got a pretty full accounting and it was bad. It was really bad. And I don't regret what I did. And again, it goes back to that duality, that voice that says you're doing this and you're doing it now. And I did follow it. And thank God I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it was the best decision I ever made was to stand up and really fight on his behalf.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, kind of, I guess, contrasting that, what are some of the best moments in your life? And, you know, what would you have to share about those moments?
Oh, a lot of little things. I love the little things, you know, the little moments that you don't know that they're the best moments until like a little ways after. I'm like, wow, yeah, that was really cool. You know, like I said, when I was dating my husband and, you know, flirting in the gymnastic class and those little things. And those little things when I was in college and in England and enjoying all the friends and a lot of little things. You know, join, you know, the birthday parties, the kids' birthday parties. I throw big birthday parties for my kids and it's exhausting exhausting, and I'm usually grumpy afterwards because it's so exhausting. And when after I had a chance to decompress, I'm like, wow, yeah, that was really cool. Got a lot of pictures. Yeah, so type of thing.
That's so sweet. I feel like I would want to do big birthday parties for my kids because I like planning parties, and I mean they are exhausting. Even I've been there as well. But I like especially themed parties. I think they're really fun. So I could see that. Yeah, there are a lot of little things, I think. And that's the thing when it comes to especially happiness or, you know, the best moments. Sometimes you can't always predict that what will be the best moments.
No, you don't really know.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I don't really know much else to talk about because we really have covered a lot. I really don't know. I mean, we probably could talk about so much more, but I think I'm pretty satisfied with this interview. Unless you wanted to say anything else.
I can't think of anything. Yeah, I can't think of anything.
Yeah. Well, I hope you guys are having a great evening or afternoon or morning. And Victoria, you've been such a pleasure, and it's been awesome having you.
It's been fun. I really enjoyed this. Sorry for the internet connection, guys. Sorry.
That's okay. It really wasn't bad. I mean, we've had worse where the internet connection has been worse, but it wasn't bad. I think we were able to ease into it with grace, so that was good. But yeah, have a good night, everybody, and yeah.
Bye.
Bye, guys.